Hello everyone, welcome back to Watching Movie Reviews, which are variety show that's most pretty good, made one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks until we name you just the fact. Now, 2 days ago we reviewed Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which I feel like is a pretty good film, and I feel like it would have gotten a lot more better reception if it didn't have the name of Halloween on it, and it was just called Season of the Witch. Today, obviously, happy Halloween to everyone who's out there. Okay, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm not doing that for the entire positive review because it gets on there real fast. So, yeah, sorry that, your boy's not going to be in the Michael Myers mask for the entire review, but Jesus Christ, it gets on there real fast. Anyway, yeah, so yesterday I discussed Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and even though I feel like that the film was good overall, and like I said, if it didn't have the name Halloween 3, and it was just called Season of the Witch, I felt like I would have gotten a lot better reception. But unfortunately, it does have the name, which garnered a lot of backlash and is considered to be not only the black sheep of the franchise, but also the, I believe, lowest grossing of the entire Halloween franchise. 6 years later, after the release of Halloween 3, we got a comeback to the Michael Myers story with Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Now, to discuss my history with the film, I have, you know, ever since I got into the Halloween franchise, this was one of the most kind of talked about films in the franchise. And, it's kind of hard to not see why, because, this is the first Michael Myers film that was made after the release of, Season of the Witch, which, um, like I said, people have enjoyed, has been, Season of the Witch has built up a cult following over the last few years. It still at the time was a box office bomb pretty much, and I think is the lowest grossing Halloween film ever. So they decided, you know what, let's bring it back to the Michael Myers story because that's clearly what it does best. Um, and I've always considered it as that's a pretty good sequel. Not obviously the best one. The best one is obviously Halloween 2, but it's a overall great film. In a It was just sucks that what came afterwards wasn't so great. But we'll talk about that next year. But enough talking about the other Halloween films. Let's talk about Halloween 4. So, um, this film was made on a budget of $5 million. So about 2.5 million more than the previous film. Domestically, it made over 17 million, and worldwide it has not been confirmed yet, but it was considered to be a moderate success. But uh, it was kind of, in terms of box office sales, it kind of dwindled compared to the other two big franchises that came out that year, or franchise films in the horror genre, which was Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Which could be a good or bad thing when you really look at it, but that doesn't really, account for the actual qualities of the film. Maybe in the critics' minds, but you're, your own judge of the film. And this was directed by Dwight H. Little, who I've never really heard of, uh, besides this film and what he's probably most known for in the filmmaking business, who made the film adaptation of the video game Tekken in 2010. And a lot of people don't like it. I can kind of see why, but overall, I still don't have an opinion on it since I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, besides, Tekken, he's most well known for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Um, which, I mean, granted, it's not a bad film to have your, be cemented as. So, good job. Um, so, yeah, I guess let's go on to the plot. Before we get on to that, yes, I am wearing the the same basically outfit that I wore last year for Halloween 1 and 2. I kind of forgotten how small this thing was because trying to get into this thing before recording was a bitch. Uh, you may notice that I'm not actually kind of moving around a lot, so you know, do keep that in mind. So, but anyway, enough dawdling. Let's get on to the plot itself. So the apparent comatose Michael Myers, played in this film by George P. Wilbur, is being transferred from one hospital to another, aka he's being transferred back to Smith's Grove Sanatorium. But he wakes up when the ambulance crew talk about his surviving niece, Jamie Lloyd, played by the fantastic Danielle Harris. After slaughtering the attendants, Myers sets out to find his one living relative, who is, fortunately, being cared for by a kind and resourceful foster sister named Rachel, played by Ellie Cornell. Meanwhile, the ever cautious Dr. Loomis, played again by the fantastic Donald Pleasance, remains on the killer's path. So yeah, this is kind of a back to form for the Halloween franchise because, like I said, Halloween 3 was such a departure away from the series that, and they just felt like that they needed to bring it back with the Michael Myers story, and they didn't want to try anything that new, so they kept it to a minimum and kind of left made the plot kind of relatively the same compared to the first two. So, I guess that's a really a cheap form of writing, but grandly, this film has kind of a lot of production issues that you can easily look up. In fact, I'll actually link a video in the description below that kind of goes really in depth into what all of the behind the scenes drama there was on this film. I'll go into a little bit of that in this, especially when we get to the kind of we get to the cast and kind of like some of my favorite moments. Um, but suffice to say that this is not it's not on par with like Alien 3, where it's like literally one of the most well known, you know, movies that have such a disastrous production history that, it's surprising that any film got made. But it's still kind of up there as one of the most like kind of like, damn, that's kind of surprising, especially for a horror film nonetheless. Um, but I guess kind of the only explanation I can really think about in terms of like why you know the plot was kind of so paper thin in terms of actual like new stuff is because there's, I believe, a total of 4 writers for this film, including Dwight H. Little. Um, because I don't know if it's actually gonna say back here. Yeah, no, it says all of them right here. Um, yeah, but Dwight H. Little, such a weird name to pronounce, is not on there. But yeah, a total of 4 writers for the film. That kind of just vaguely paints a picture of like what's going on with this film, really. Um, so I mean, in terms of a Halloween film, in terms of like an actual Michael Myers film, it's honestly probably one of the better ones. Which grandly isn't really saying much. Compare, like, especially with the fact that there's really so like kind of more bad Michael Myers films than good ones. But it really, this is honestly one of the better ones, and I feel like that most people could agree with that. Um, because it doesn't really do too out of the norm. It really kind of just feels like a great general like yeah, kind of just general Michael Myers story compared to 5 or 6, where they just tried to go really far down with just random crap that they just kind of you know decide to make up on the spot. But I kind of like the fact that this film kind of keeps it down to a minimum in terms of like with the whole it's just Michael Myers going on a killing spree, and not the fact that he's being controlled by some fucking Satanist cult, which again we'll get to next year. But you know, not saying this film has problems because it has a lot of plot holes that really can't be ignored. I can't obviously list all of them down, but I'll mention them a few that are the most notable ones um, throughout the film or throughout this review. Sorry, but I guess let's just go on to the cast. So we have the fantastic Donald Pleasance returning as Dr. Sam Loomis, and he is probably the best part about this film, especially for 5 and 6. Um, so um, but granted though, this film actually has a lot of good points about it compared to some of the later ones. But you know they kind of for some reason they kind of especially in 5 they kind of make him into like a crazy person, whereas in this film it still feels like the old same, like the old classic Dr. Loomis with a little bit of tiredness and kind of just wrought with the guilt of you know what happened in 1978. But yeah, he still does great with the role, and I believe actually he when he looked at the first script that was being developed for this film, he didn't like it, but still wanted to be a part of the series. So I believe he said that he'll play Loomis again, but he had to see the final revision of the script and approve it. Um, so um, you know, good kind of negotiating on Pleasance's role. We have the fantastic Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, who is the daughter of Laurie Strode. Um, so, um, you know, um, so, and she does, great for being, I actually, she might be 8 or 9 at the time of this film because I think that she might have been 10 to 12 in part 5, but um, yeah, especially for her age, she does fantastic with the role, and you know, she's still kind of an active part of the horror genre. Obviously, especially Halloween. You know, with the fact that she's starred in not only this film and 5, but will go on to star as one of Laurie's friends in the Rob Zombie reboots of Halloween 1 and 2. So she's got a very kind of big career in the Halloween films. Um, which honestly, for me personally, I feel like that she does better as Jamie than the friend of Laurie in the Rob Zombie reboots. Granted, it's just the fact that I just don't like those films, but especially seeing this film for the first time because uh, I never really had any sort of way to watch it. So seeing this film for the first time in fantastic 4K quality, kind of you know not saying the 4K quality helped me appreciate you know Jamie as a character, but it really kind of just brought out the scope of like this character has been through a lot. She's um I obviously hasn't experienced it personally, but she has basically experienced her mother dying in a car crash. has been basically living in fear for almost her entire life. Even though, yeah, she's in the comfort of Rachel Carruthers, played by Ellie Cornell, she's still in kind of that, fear that, someday he's going to come back. Um, and obviously, on October 31st of 1988, he does eventually come back to Haddonfield to wreak havoc on Haddonfield and to get his niece. So, and speaking of Rachel, she's a great character as well. One of the best final girls in all the Halloween series. I would easily put her like second behind Laurie, because she just does. She does not, like, once shit kicks off. She does not give a fuck, and she goes after Michael. She helps Jamie go onto the roof, and then when Jamie is at the school, she brings out the fire extinguisher, sprays it in Michael's face. She's like, you know, like, she's like, I'm protecting Jamie with my life, which kind of sucks what they did with her in the next film. But again, that's for another time. But it's she's a great character, so um, great job to Ellie Cornell. We have Banu Starr as Sheriff Ben Meeker, who I've really only heard about in terms, as Sheriff Meeker in Halloween 4 and 5, and as the father to Henry Hill in 1990's Goodfellas, which ironically came a year after Halloween 5. So, really, besides that, I haven't really heard him in much of anything else. But in terms of this film, he does really great with the role. As trying to stop Michael from wreaking any more havoc, to protecting Jamie. Kind of really just really kind of put him as one of the best protective characters and then of all the Michael Myers films, in my opinion. Um, we have Kathleen Kinmont as Kelly Meeker and Sasha Jensen as Brady. Who Brady is in a quote unquote relationship with Rachel, but then starts getting with Kelly when Rachel breaks the news to him that she has to babysit Jamie on Halloween night. Um, in terms of both of them, I've never really heard of them in anything, but Brady would, not Brady, Sasha Jensen would go on to be a part of one of the most well-known comedies in the 1990s, I believe, which is Dazed and Confused. But besides that, I don't really recognize them from anything, so it's like, eh. We have Michael Pataki. I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, as Dr. Hoffman. I recognized him from a few roles before and I believe after this film. Uh, and he again plays Dr. Hoffman, who basically has been taking care of Michael for really ever since after since 1978. And he really um he's kind of just there just to kind of just be you know one of the again one of the disbelievers, saying like Michael isn't alive, and even if he was, his bones would just be mush by now. So, but there's one line I remember from him that it kind of just made me hate the character a lot, which was basically he's in the morgue when the two ambulance attendees show up to transfer Michael, I should say, and he's like, I think he goes on, like, he talks about Dr. Loomis, and I think he just goes like, either have him, stay away from Haddonfield, locked away, or die. And I'm like, damn, like, give the fucking guy a break. Um, So I didn't really, like his character that much, but granted, he only popped in like a couple scenes, and he was just out of the film. Which granted, though, that could have been the fact that, as production went on, um, the budget was just kept on getting lowered and lowered and lowered. One notable thing I can remember in terms of like that was Rachel's friend that takes Rachel and Jamie to the convenience store. She was supposed to. I believe she is the girl that Lori babysat in the original film. I forgot what the name was of that girl, but yeah, that was. I think it's still in the final film of that one scene where she's like she's like the girl from the first Halloween film, and I believe when they actually get to the convenience store, um, one of the boys that's hanging out with Brady is supposed to be Tommy from the original. Um, but to go back to the girl, she had a few more scenes in the film. I believe like when the whole climax in the house kicks off, she was supposed to be there as well, but because of budgetary reasons, she just got completely cut out of the film. So that kind of sucks. Um, Kind of the same thing with Tommy. He was kind of just written out of the film. Um, with I think there was a few other notable mentions, but again, link down in the description below to the other video, which kind of goes more into depth about it. But yeah. So, well, I guess to mention some other things that were originally in the script that had to be cut or just changed around so that it would kind of just fit within their budget. Uh, the last thing I kind of know in terms of that was I believe the ending or the climate the kind of like scene at the house where Michael starts killing everyone in the house after Loomis and Sheriff Meeker leave. Um, I believe so Sheriff Meeker was supposed to come back to the house, see obviously Michael there, fight him in the basement, where it would lead to Sheriff Meeker's death, which would inevitably spawn a furnace fire, which would set the house ablaze, and um, which forced Jamie and Rachel up onto the roof. But again, for budgetary reasons, they just had it where Sheriff Meeker doesn't show back at the house, and but Rachel and Jamie still go onto the roof, but it's not on fire, obviously. Um, I believe that scene might be in the novelization of the film. I think, but I'm not exactly sure about it. And speaking of that rooftop sequence, I believe Ellie Cornell cut herself on an exposed nail on the roof. Um, and went to the emergency room and lost, I think, about 2 pounds of blood. Again, I'm not exactly sure about that. Um, but then was obviously able to come back and film the rest of the scene. But yeah, according to Daniel Harris, yeah, she lost kind of quite a few pounds of blood because of that. Um, but yeah, I guess to go on to favorite scenes. Um, my first favorite scene would have to be. Oh, actually, no. Actually forgot to mention. The actor who plays Michael Myers, which technically, I think there's three in the film, although one of them is uncredited. So I'm only gonna talk about the two that I know the most information about, which is George P. Wilbur and Tom Morga. Now, in the plot synopsis, you may have heard me say just George P. Wilbur played Michael Myers. which yes, that's technically true. So the story goes at is that Tom Morgan was originally hired to be Michael Myers, and they filmed few scenes with him, including the two scenes that are actually in the final film, which is the ambulance scene and the gas station scene. Uh, in both of those scenes, Michael Myers was played by Tom Morgan. But for the rest of the film, it was George P. Wilbur. So they hired him as they hired Tom Morgan to play Michael Myers. They filmed a few scenes with him. Um, and the costume designer, I believe, was I'm forgetting the name right now. It might actually say on the back of here. I don't know if that's gonna say it or not. Um, yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's on here. So, um, I'm actually gonna look it up on my phone real quick, but I'll keep on saying it. So what's his face? The costume designer who made the new Michael Myers mask for the film, which by the way, might as well talk about it right now. Everyone always kind of complains about the fact of that the mask for this film kind of looks a little bit dopey. Uh, which yes, I can kind of agree with, but overall, I actually still kind of like the mask. Obviously, it's not as good as the original William Shatner mask from the first two films, but it's still one of the better masks in my opinion. Um, compared to especially compared to the next film. Oh my god, it's way better. But again, that's for the next film. Um, I'm honestly forgetting the name of. Damn it. But basically, uh, so anyway, might as well just keep on going on with the story. So basically, the mask designer and Tom Morga, uh, were asked to, remove or open up the contact or open up the eyelids for the mask, and they refused because opening up the eye holes of the mask would kind of you know lead to them having to put more adhesive in the mask, which would cause the actor to pass out. They were apparently both fired from the production, but the mask designer was a good friend of a major contributor of Fangoria magazine, who, when they heard about the firing, they were like, "Hey, you better um, you better hire him back, or else we're gonna cut all promotion of your film." And so they're like, "Well, shit, we kind of need him back." So Ken Horn, that's what his name was. So yeah, it was Ken Horn and Tom Marga who argued with the fact that if you open the eyelids, that requires more adhesive, and the actor will most likely pass out because of the chemicals. Um, and so yeah, they were both fired. So and then Ken Horn was hired back, but Tom Morga wasn't. So um, so they obviously had to hire a new actor, and that's where George P. Wilbur came in, and he basically did the rest of the film, or portrayed as Michael for the rest of the film. So you can kind of tell. within certain shots that the mask, especially with the eyelids, it kind of flip flops back and forth between like the eyelids are open, like way more open than in other shots where it's kind of more closed. The hair is kind of in some shots it's scruffy, it's straight. His height sometimes changes. It's kind of really weird. Um, but that wasn't the only problem that Cameron had to deal with on the production of Halloween 4. He would find even more difficulty with the makeup that had to be done on Donald Pleasance himself. So obviously in this film he has the burn makeup, which kind of was is supposed to represent the fire from the from the end of the Halloween 2. Um, and that's where Michael has the burn scars on both his hands. Um, and so kind of Dr. Loomis has the the some burned makeup on I think his right cheek or one of his I think I'm just gonna say it. I think it's his right cheek and then his hand. Um, which honestly it's not that good, and that's probably honestly one of the only improvements that they made with Halloween 5. Um, but that's not my point. So, they put the makeup on and they did about I think about half the film when where they actually know they did most of the filming when one of the production designers was like, "Hey, it kind of looks like you have a fried, egg on your cheek," and so they hastily redesigned the makeup and refilmed all of the film. And they were intending to use all those shots with the new makeup in the film. Well, something happened in the editing room where they kind of mixed up both of the footage. So there is a lot of shots in the film where it goes from the kind of the fried egg makeup to the the kind of better burned makeup, which I can actually probably uh pop up a side by side comparison from here. Um, so um, um, but it's like it's kind of bad. To be really honest. Um, I'm honestly trying to get like a good kind of image of it. Um, so I mean, I guess this is the best I can do. So there is the new, yeah, that's the redesigned makeup, which, granted, it doesn't look that bad. And then you compare it um, with the original, um, you compare it with the original kind of makeup they did, and yeah, it's pretty obvious that it kind of looks like a fried egg. But like yeah, like I said, they kind of mixed it up in the editing room where it's kind of just a mixture of both. So you know, whoops. Um, so yeah, you can kind of tell that there was a lot of production issues with the film, and um, it was released and it did relatively well in order, so that Mustafa Akkad, who is the creator, was the I think producer of the film. Let me see. Yeah, he was the executive producer who would work on every single Halloween film. I think until um, I believe the Rob Zombie ones. I think I'm not exactly sure on that. But yeah, basically he was an executive producer on all the Halloween films until his untimely death. Which again I don't really exactly remember the year of. But so yeah, so now to go on to my favorite scene since I kind of rambled on a little bit about that. Um, yeah, so my first favorite scene is really the gas station scene where because it's really a good. It kind of reminds me of the original film. especially with the fact that it's just suspense, where Loomis shows up. Uh, he walks into the garage of the gas station, and he's asking like, "Hello, is anyone there?" And he kind of turns his back, and all of a sudden you see this like corpses fall down, and like it's kind of like a good kind of jump scare for early on in the film, and you know um and he goes into the cafe, realizes all the phones are dead, and sees another dead corpse there, which was actually like one of the people that was eating there. And then he kind of turns around, and you just hear me just go like, Michael, and it just does like this really kind of cool like zoom in on like you know Michael standing there with the suit on, but still has like the bandages around his face. And there's just like this great monologue by Loomis that's like, don't go back to Haddonfield. If you want if you want a murder victim, kill me. Don't go and hurt those people in Haddonfield. And then he tries to shoot at him. Uh, and then for some reason now Michael Myers is a fucking ninja. He just gone like that. Gets into one of the trucks. Blows up the gas pumps, and also destroys Loomis's car, so he can't go anywhere, and cuts off and it destroys the phone lines. And so you're like, granted, that's a kind of a stupid action scene, but overall, kind of, it was still kind of a good like scene to like, kind of have. Um, my second favorite scene would probably have to be, um, fuck, I'm just trying to remember, um, another favorite scene that isn't the ending, because honestly, that's probably my overall favorite scene in the entire film. Um, but um, one of the more stupider scenes I can remember is when uh rednecks in Haddonfield hear about there's a curfew, and the police station they're not picking up, and so they go on basically on a lynch mob, and they pull over and they see some moving in a bush. They all start firing their weapons. And once it all stops and settles down, they go over to it, and you just hear one of them go, "Shit, Earl, it's Ted Hollister." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you just fucking murdered this man. Why is this even a thing? Um, but really, just the entire ending where it starts from them getting to actually the skull sequence where Michael no Loomis takes Jamie into the school, um and Michael kind of dispatches the Loomis, and then almost gets Jamie, but then Rachel comes in and sprays him with a fire extinguisher. Now, if you've seen the film, you know where I'm going to be going with this, because it's one of the most glaring continuity issues in the entire film. But for those who are who haven't seen it, in the scene where um Dr. Loomis gets picked up by Michael Myers and thrown through a glass door, you notice that he's not just the standard white mask with the kind of brown hair. It's a pink mask with blondish hair. Now, how they created the mask, Ken Horn kind of just bought a whole bunch of William Shatner masks, kind of trying to hope that he could do the same thing with that they did in the original, but they came out with these pink masks with the blonde hair. So he kind of, and being in such kind of a rush, uh, painted by hand all these masks white, and dyed the hair brown, which kind of like made a little bit of a bumpy texture on the mask. Um, on the night of them filming this scene, they need to grab one of the masks. One of the production crew goes and grabs the wrong mask, and the explanation that Dwight H. Lowe gave was that they were all just too tired to even care, and they just filmed the scene with the pink blonde mask. Which it's really obvious that like it's obviously not the right mask. Um, but it's honestly, yeah, it's one of the more glaring continuity issues, but it's only there for like a few seconds, and then it cuts back to the regular mask. So It's not that big of a deal, but it's honestly like, why would you even, just let that happen? Um, but yeah, the the school sequence, the rednecks show up, take Jamie and Rachel out of city limits. But Michael Myers has hitched a ride underneath the truck, climbs on top, kills all the rednecks. Uh, while Rachel moves and starts driving, and Michael is like literally hanging on the top of the roof trying to get Rachel. She slams on the brakes, causing him to obviously fall off, and then rams him with the truck. He goes flying, lands on the ground. They Rachel thinks she's dead. And then the police show up. She goes and talks to them while while Jamie goes over to Michael's body and picks up the hand. And that's kind of the first kind of hint of like a psychic connection, which was way elaborated on part 5. But yeah, she kind of just picks up the hand. Uh, and then they run. The police and Rachel run over. They tell them to for her to get away from Michael. He obviously isn't dead. Stands up and she drops down, and they just shoot him to death basically, and make him fall down this grave hole, and he's buried. Where then they go like, oh yeah, he's finally dead. I'm like, Granley, you shouldn't be saying that, because he not only got shot 12 times in this 10 years ago, he got shot more than 12 times, got shot in the face, shot in the eyes, and was set ablaze, and yet he was still going. So how the fuck do you think that burying him, like shooting him countless times, with a fucking militia and sending him down a hole and burying him would do anything? Because he's gonna fucking come back. But you know that's not what happens in the film. They presume he's dead, but then you get the point of view shot of someone grabbing a pair of scissors, putting the mask on, going out and attacking uh, Rachel's mom. You don't obviously see the attack, but you just see Loomis running up the stairs, gun in hand, and he sees Rachel sitting there in the clown costume, with kind of blood all over her, with the scissors in her hand, and he's ready to shoot her, but then Meeker, swats the gun out of his hand, and the father and Rachel come up, and it just kind of just lingers, on her just kind of raising the scissors up, and cut to black. And I really wish that they kind of just tried to continue on with Jamie becoming the new Michael Myers, but obviously in Halloween 5 they didn't do that. But again, that's for next year. The fun facts, yeah, we're gonna go into the fun facts and then the score, and then we're gonna end this thing off. So, uh, did you know that just so that Danielle Harris wasn't scared throughout the production, George P. Wilbur would often lift up the mask between takes to remind her that they were just pretending, which is honestly a very nice move for George's end, because just trying to make some connections between between him and the young actress. My second fun fact is, did you know that Jamie's original name in the script, in the first revision of the script, I believe, was Britty Lloyd, but was later changed to Jamie, to homage the original Halloween star Jamie Lee Curtis. The music was composed by Alan Howarth, who had done several scores with John Carpenter before. Obviously, working on he might have worked on the first film. I know he definitely worked on the second film and 3, but also did several films with John Carpenter, including I believe Escape from New York, along with, I know he definitely did Big Trouble in Little China, and I believe ended the collaboration with Prince of Darkness. Um, and then obviously went on to work on Halloween 4 and 5, and I believe 6 as well. The score for this film is honestly actually really good. I actually really dig the remix, the Halloween 4 version of the Halloween theme. I actually really like the theme. Obviously not as good as the original or the second film, but I still put it at number 3 in terms of remixes of the Halloween theme. But the score overall is actually really good. There was a deluxe edition that came out a few years ago, which contains, I believe, about 18 tracks, and I believe it's the entire score. You can get it, on digital platforms like YouTube Music and iTunes. Hunting down the actual CD release may be a little bit more difficult since it was a limited edition release. But again, you could easily get it on, like digital platforms. So, final thoughts on Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. It is in my opinion, it's a very good, Halloween sequel. Is it as good as Halloween 1 or 2? No, not at all. It certainly is better than some of the later Halloween sequels, but overall, I still really, I probably would come back to this film every once in a while. It does have problems with it. Um, but overall, I feel like that this is a overall very entertaining horror film that I may watch every Halloween. Uh, which is why I'm gonna give this film a B plus. Slightly better than Halloween 3. Uh, but I still really enjoy this film, and I feel like that if anyone can try to pick up this 4K release by Scream Factory, with this very nice hardcover matte kind of look, with this very good looking cover art. There's a spine in the back. Obviously it being a Screen Factory edition, you can have the new cover art, or have the original poster art on the actual Blu-ray case, which is obviously I did the standard theatrical poster. This is like Halloween 3. This is a 2 disc set with the Blu-ray and the 4K. Um, so yeah. Um, so yeah. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give this film a B plus. So yeah, guys, that ends the second annual Halloween special. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This year's Halloween special. Uh, it made me actually appreciate a lot of new films I actually now do like, including the Halloween 3 and 4, Candyman, and the first Child's Play film, along with Psycho and obviously Aliens. I still love to this day. So yeah, that ends my review of Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, and the whole, you know, second annual Halloween special. I'm gonna be taking a little bit of a break between this review and the next set of reviews for season 5, because going from the end of season 4 and then starting on this month, starting with the new season and the Halloween special is very kind of tiring. And plus, I am working on a new series with my good friend Franco. His channel will be linked down in the description below. Actually, tomorrow is the upload of the first episode of the Super Mario Galaxy collab Let's Play. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and stay tuned for um, the first episode of the Mario Galaxy Let's Play, and stay tuned for the next movie review whenever that comes out, probably mid-November. So, yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this, and stay tuned for the next movie review. And again, go and check out the Super Mario Galaxy Let's Play on Franco's channel, which will be linked down in the description below. Well, also make sure to follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Those will be all down in the description below. Almost forgot about that. But anyway, see you guys later. Live long and prosper. Out.